Thank you so much for joining us for this session. My name is Terry Jordan. I'm the founder and CEO of WiseWebs here in Kansas City. And I'm very excited to introduce the next speaker for this session. So this is all about entrepreneurship. If some of you may have a business idea that you're pursuing, or maybe you're just thinking you'd love to be an entrepreneur. Well, I was in an e-scholars program at GEWKC, and I heard someone talk about marketing in such a way that I had never heard it before. Here I am, this budding entrepreneur. And I walked up to him, and I said, would you be willing to have a cup of coffee with me? And he said, absolutely. And so every couple weeks, we'd meet for coffee. And I didn't know it at the time, but the whole future of my career was about to change. That's how I met my business partner. And I just want to tell you a few things about David Patrick that you may or may not know. So if you've ever seen Mad Men, the show Mad Men, this is one of the Mad Men. And he had a tremendous career on Madison Avenue, kind of the New York and in Chicago type ad agencies, working on big brands. So I'm sure he's going to tell you a few stories about some of his days in his ad days. He was also the very first chief marketing officer for beauty brands, those of you that are familiar with beauty brands. And he was also the chief marketing officer for Westlake. So he's had a lot of big titles and big names in marketing. But he decided to put that aside and become an entrepreneur himself. And I'm excited for him to tell you about his story. And he's going to weave some of that experience that he's had throughout his career into his presentation today. So, David Patrick.
Thanks, Terry. So I like this picture, and it kind of shows the potential power. Early in my career, I got to work on an automotive account, and I learned what the word torque means. Obviously, it's a physics mathematical equation, but I had an engineer once at General Motors tell me that torque is that feeling when your neck snaps back when you're accelerating, right? And I always wanted to explore and then actually be successful with this idea of marketing torque. Could you have marketing that really drives your business? And hopefully I'll share some of that with you today. The very first company I started was called High Performance Retail Marketing Group. And I knew that if I wrote the book on high performance marketing, and I gave lectures on high performance marketing, and I taught high performance marketing, then I'd have to answer the question, well, what is high performance marketing? Can you define it? Can you do it? Can you teach it? And that's what today's about also. I'm part of two companies right now. So one is High Performance Marketing Boot Camps, where we teach and we help CEOs and executive teams get marketing that is more driving their business. And we just finished a big workshop last Friday with a business drivers boot camp. So that's something that Terry and I do together and try to share some of this knowledge. Most CEOs are either finance folks or operations folks, and they certainly spend a lot of money on marketing, but they don't really get marketing in a way that is driving their business, and oftentimes they're unhappy. And then Terry and I are partners in WiseWebs, where we help companies with marketing strategy and marketing and technology solutions to drive business. So plenty of time for questions. I'm looking out into a big room that's dark, so I think we'll turn up the lights at the end for questions. That's probably better. But kind of write down your questions, and we'll make sure we've got time to cover them. So if you take a look at this sign, this is not marketing, right? This isn't marketing at all. This is clever, and a lot of times you will see clever billboards. You'll see clever things that look to you like they're marketing. They're not marketing. This is just clever, right? It's not really marketing. About 15 years ago, we asked over 120 small business owners, are you happy with your marketing? And they all answered the same thing. It was not only no, but like, no, we're not really happy with our marketing. And well, why is that? Why do you ask any CEO, you ask any business owner why they aren't happy with their marketing, you get the same answer over and over again. I need to see more cause and effect. I need to see more direct relationship between I'm spending money and I'm causing something to happen. I want to see more ROI. I want to understand the ROI more. So we're going to talk today about marketing strategy that drives your business. but is all part of a larger question, right? What's your business strategy? What's your advertising strategy? What's your brand strategy? What's your communication, your messaging strategy? It all goes together, so you can't just pull out the marketing piece without it being part of the larger conversation. So Terry mentioned Mad Men. So if you've seen the show or if you know of the show, somewhere about the 6th episode in the first season, our hero, Don Draper, is at a hippie's apartment building. And all the hippies are stoned and they're talking dopey hippie talk. And Don Draper is standing out very unusual because he's in his 3-piece Madison Avenue suit. And one of the hippies leans over to Don and he says, "You're the want man." And he says it very condescending with a lot of derision in his voice. And because John Hamm's a great actor, he owns it. You see him contemplate, and then he says, "I'm the want man." And he says it with pride. And the reason I'm sharing that with you today, whether you think of you're in marketing or not, you need to be in the want business. You need to create want. Want for your company, want for your products, want for your services. That's what marketing is. It's creating want. It's creating demand. So throughout the presentation today, it's a little dark in here, but if you've got something to write with, I will put you to work. And you'll kind of learn a little bit about marketing by doing it yourself. And so anytime you see this little kind of construction back to work sign, I'm going to put you to work. So the first question I'm going to ask you to write down for yourself, and I'll ask you again at the end of the presentation, maybe your answer will change. What does the customer want from you? What does the customer want from you? If you have a customer, what do they want from you? And it's not 15 words, it's not 10 words. Generally, it's 3 to 5 words. Right? Taco Bell sells inexpensive Tex-Mex. Crest prevents cavities. Disney provides magical memories, right? So think of what the customer wants from you when they're coming to you. It could be convenience. It could be something like that. And then what does the customer want from the category? There's a reason when you see a Home Depot ad and a Lowe's ad, they seem very similar because customers want empowerment when they come to the hardware category. They want to know that they can do it, right? You can do it, we can help. If you're thinking about getting an MBA, regardless of the provider, you want to accelerate your career success, right? So that's a benefit of the category. Whether Princeton does it, MIT does it, or UMKC does it, they'll do it in their own way. So 3 things to take away from today. So I'm putting the burden on you when you leave here. The job now is on you as the business owner, as the entrepreneur. You have to make the strategy smarter. You have to make the strategy sharper, and you have to make it more effective. You do own the strategy. You own the marketing strategy. So one of the dilemmas that I found when I was going through my career in marketing was, as a consumer, most of the marketing you're familiar with is activity. It's not marketing. It's just stuff. It's just activity. When I got to Westlake Ace Hardware, we had $750,000 in our budget for Yellow Pages ads still, when no one was going to the Yellow Pages to decide if they were going to go to a hardware store. It's just activity. So think about what you're doing, and are you spending money on something that's been going on year after year, or are you actually making a decision, is this going to drive my business? And what you want your marketing to do is create demand, right? You want to make your phone ring. You want people to come in, ring the register. So you want your marketing to do that and not just activity. There's 2 roles. When I talk to CEOs about marketing, I say there's really only 2 roles. So one is, where are we going? Someone owns that, right? The CEO owns that for the company, but someone has to own that for marketing. Where are we going? And the other is get the ads out the door today. And oftentimes companies, smaller companies, overinvest too much in get the ads out the door today, as opposed to, in addition to thinking, where are we going? Most of this conversation today will be about where are we going. It's not going to be about should you be on Facebook or Instagram. It should be like where should you be going with your marketing, and how do you think about it in such a way that's going to drive your business? So here's my recipe for high performance marketing. What's your reason for being? What's your company's reason for need? And what's your reason for profit? Does it all hang together? If you think about American Girl, the founder of that company was an educator. And she believes that that's an education company, and the dolls just communicate stories about the history of the U.S. And so she believes she's an education company, and she makes money by educating girls. So think about what your reason for being is. Quite often when Terry and I meet with a new client, they tell us how magical their company is, and it really is magical. And then you look at their website, and it doesn't really communicate how magical that company is. So what's today all about? So I've got this image in my mind. I've had it in my mind about 35 years. And it's like, what are you going to do differently after you leave here today that's going to change the trajectory of your company's growth? So when I first got this image in my head, I was working on the Miller Lite advertising account. I was in Chicago. I had a 9 o'clock meeting at Miller, the brewery in Milwaukee. And I had to drive through Chicago rush hour traffic. I had to drive through Milwaukee rush hour traffic. I left my house at like 3:30 in the morning to get to this 9 o'clock meeting. And I was the youngest person in the room. I was the least experienced when it came to the beer business. Everyone had been in the beer business about 20 years that was in the room. There were about 60 people in the room. The brand manager of Miller Lite said, we're going to plan next year at -2%. And I raised my hand and I said, can I work on the plus 10% plan? I don't want to work on the -2%. I didn't drive 4 hours to work on the -2% plan, right? And so if you think about what you want to do with your business, if you want to grow your business, +5, +10, +20%, what is that delta that you're going to create? I believe in marketing. I believe the marketing is going to create that delta that's going to change the trajectory of your business. So one of it's having a vision, right? Where are we going to go with the company, with the marketing? What's our strategy and what's our plan? When we work with our clients, this is really our starting point. What's your vision? What does success look like? And how are you going to realize that success, and how can marketing help you do that? Well, some of the things that marketers use to do that is lead generation, customer capture, conversion, right? As customers get into your conversations, are you converting more? How do you grow the customers that you currently have? How do you optimize their value, and then how do you retain them? When they ask CEOs, what's your job? CEOs always give the same two answers. One is, where are we going? So that question's in common with marketing. But the other is, where do we add the most value? How can we add more value? And that's part of the marketing equation too. How do I take my current customers and make them more valuable by providing more value to them? So here's my promise today. So those of you that do a lot of presentations, it's always good to have a promise slide, because it not only helps organize the presentation, but I can tell you where I'm going. So I'll share with you the single most important question, the secret of marketing. You didn't pay extra for that. You walk out of here with the secret of marketing. How to connect a vision to a strategy to a plan, how to align customer target, value proposition, brand strategy, and marketing strategy, the difference between activity marketing and high-performance marketing, how to connect your why, what, and how so that you can create a marketing strategy that drives business. And we'll do that all in 40 minutes pretty quickly. So Mark Jaffe's written a really fun book called Let Me Give It to You Straight. And what he talks about is there's no magic formula. The marketing person isn't the person with the magic wand. Even though companies are hiring a new CMO today and tomorrow, thinking that, oh my gosh, the new marketing person's here, success is going to happen, right? But it isn't. It happens through a lot of hard work, a lot of understanding, a lot of perseverance, and really understanding your customer, your category, and how you add value, and why people come to you and why they come back again. So I'll give you an example, a couple bad examples and a couple good examples. So if you go into a Krispy Kreme, it's just an incredible, magical experience, right? That guy is waiting to see you, and he's making the donuts, and they'll give you a free donut to taste. And you step in, and the smell is incredible. You're watching the donut factory. You really stepped into Willy Wonka's donut experience. And people would drive across town. A few years ago, Krispy Kreme was the highest valued franchise that you could buy. In fact, they required you to have $25 million of capitalization, and you could only become a Krispy Kreme franchisee if you committed to owning 5 or more stores. How different is what I just described to you to a box of Krispy Kreme donuts sitting in the Conoco gas station? They've been sitting there for 8 hours. That's a commodity donut versus something that's really special. So if you're in the business of really special, How are you being special? Terry and I had a coffee chain client once, and the head of operations said our turnover with the baristas is 180%. If you have 180% turnover with your baristas, you're not offering a special cup of coffee. You're not offering consistency. You don't know who your customers are. Everyone who's working for you is always being trained. How do you get any kind of consistency? How do you justify charging a premium price? You can't, right? So your pricing strategy has to support a whole bunch of things, not the least of which is if you're special, if you're different, you've got to kind of earn that. Here's another bad example. So not when I was on Miller Lite, but after I was working on other things, Miller Lite decided to come along and come up with a can that had a hole in it that would pour faster. So if I ask you to write down the top 50 reasons on why you choose the beer you choose, none of you would say because it has a hole in the can and it pours faster, right? Miller Lite's reason for being is great taste, less filling. It was the first diet beer. They didn't call it diet beer because men wouldn't drink a diet beer. They call it light beer, wink, wink. You can drink more, right? But great taste, less filling is what the brand is about. It's not, our can has a hole in it, right? It's a big waste of time. Burger King is one of those rare companies that has a couple reasons for being, right? Home of the Whopper. If you want a Whopper, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Burger King, home of the Whopper. They've also flame broil it, right? If I go to the other guys, they fry it. Burger King flame broils it just like you would on your backyard barbecue. So when they launch low-fat fries, that appeals to nobody, right? If you're a current customer, you're telling them, we have no idea who you are, we don't understand you, so we're going to have low-fat fries. And if you're interested in low-fat anything, you're not going to Burger King. They've got no credibility in that, right? So it's just like a totally dumb idea all the way around, right? Now here's a good idea for Burger King. This came out of Japan. They called it the danger burger in Japan. But you've got a bun that's got spice in it. You've got kind of a spicy sauce, and it's super hot. But the cool thing is, if you're a 15-year-old boy and you eat this, you pee green and you tell all your friends. And everyone runs out and gets it, right? This is right on strategy for Burger King, right? They've always been a disruptive brand. But low-fat fries isn't. This is. So getting ready for high-performance marketing. Are you ready? We'll talk about that. What's your why? Who will you win with? What's your plan? So we'll go through this. Are you ready? Fuzzy goals equal fuzzy marketing. You have to have a clear goal. What do you want to do? I want more traffic in my store. I want to increase visit frequency. When I worked at Westlake Ace Hardware, I was not going to get someone from Lowe's or Home Depot to come to Westlake. That wasn't who was going to come to Westlake. Our customers were people that had old homes in old neighborhoods, and they would come to Westlake because they're solving old home problems. And we could help them. We could give them advice. We would helpful friendly. And so we knew who our customer was, but for me to have a goal that was tied to selling more when people came into the store, driving average check, that was a realistic goal as opposed to driving people from Home Depot and Lowe's. And so I found this quote last night that I really loved. You can't hit the target unless you're aiming at it, right? So if you don't know what you're aiming at, you're not going to be happy with your marketing. The more precise you can ask the question, what do I want my marketing to do? Then all of a sudden you can align your marketing to do that. Identify your big rocks. Again, are you driving average check, driving visit frequency? We had a fast food chain a few years ago that had enormous business on the weekends, and they were quiet during the week. One of their goals was, because the weekend business was punishing the restaurant, the employees, the quality of service model, they needed to get more business during the week. That was one of their goals, so you can do that. When I got to beauty brands, everyone was complaining about September. Well, because they did the leader sale in July and August, they would just pull business forward. But I said to the president at the time, tell me the worst month of the year, the worst week of the year, the worst day of the week, worst week of the year, and we will fill the stores. And we created a Girls' Night Out event where women came in groups on a Tuesday in the middle of September, and not only did we exceed all of our numbers, but we filled the store. And again, our goal was getting traffic into the store in September. So if you have a good precise goal, you can make that happen. Sergio Zyman used to be the CEO of Coca-Cola, and he came up with this recipe. And it's a great recipe, really hard, easy to write down, super hard to do. But if you think about your business, how do I get more customers, more frequently, spending more? Not only is that a great recipe, but you can kind of figure out, where am I missing? What am I missing, right? I don't think some people in this audience, maybe, Taco Bell has some people that come 30 plus times a month, right? They love the fast food category. They love Taco Bell. How hard is it as a marketer to get someone to Taco Bell who's going 30 times a month to 33 times a month? That's not hard at all. That's a very easy thing, because they already love Taco Bell. But to try and get someone who's not a Taco Bell user, or even not a fast food user, to come to Taco Bell, very difficult. So this is a great recipe to just kind of see where you're at, what area do you want to focus on. Finding inflection points, right? So here it is, Wednesday at 2:50, 3 o'clock. If we wanted to, let's say we were in the movie business, whether we had a movie theater or we were distributing a movie studio, the movies are going to launch on Friday at 7 o'clock. What would we do between now and Friday at 7 to get you to come to our movie, right? So think about that in terms of your customers. How do you find their inflection points when they're going to make a decision? Your fathers would wake up on a Saturday morning, look in the Sunday sports section, which tires are on sale. They don't do that now, right? If I want to buy a tire, I'm going to put in a Google search, tires on sale. So if my tire retailer isn't in that search, I might totally miss that sale. So I have to find that inflection point and intersect it. We worked on Hill's prescription a while back. Now, those of you that don't know Hill's, it's dog food that has the medicine in it. And when we asked to talk to the brand manager, how much does it take you to bring the product to market? About $2 million. How long does it take you to break even with a customer with your dog food? About 3 to 4 years. So 3 years is break even, 4 years is profitable. Well, if I'm selling the dog food through veterinarians, and the vets are recommending my dog food, and the dog and the pet parent get the dog food, and then the dog is cured, urinary tract infection or whatever, the dog's cured after about 6 months, and they go back to their old dog food, I haven't broke even at all, right? And so I need the dog to stay on the medicine so that they stay healthy, but I need the dog to stay on the medicine for 3 years so that we break even on the product. Then the marketing plan writes itself, right? I need to be totally in touch with the vet, and I need to be totally understanding what's happening, and I need to help communicate and help the vet communicate so that my brand can be successful. So once you understand these things, all of a sudden you can just, really the marketing plan writes itself. Pop-Tarts knows there's going to be, Walmart knows there's going to be 6 or 8 big weather events this year. Hurricanes, floods, fires. And what happens when you have a big weather event, people stock up their pantry. And if you go to Walmart, you can't overpay. They can't overcharge for plywood or generators or bottled water. They get in trouble. But one of the things that Walmart does when they know there's a big weather event, they put pallets of Pop-Tarts near the front of the register at full price. How smart is that? That's like really smart, right? Because people want to stock up their pantry with something that's shelf stable, and they'll pay full price for the Pop-Tarts, and that's just smart, right? Understanding your business. I'm going to provide the templates so that you guys will have access to these. But here's a template I built for my classes at school. It's a bit of a marketing assessment. So the top part is the analysis, the bottom is the strategy. But if you understand your business, how do you make money? If you understand the marketing, your marketing, you understand your brand and the category, then all of a sudden you can answer questions like, what is the problem we're trying to solve? When I ask my students, what problem is Tide trying to solve? They say, well, people eat the Tide pods. That's not the issue that Tide has, right? Tide's been the #1 laundry detergent for over 50 years. Think about how many laundry detergents are in the detergent aisle, how many new ones are introduced each year, yet Tide remains #1. That's their challenge. How do they continue to be the #1 best-selling laundry detergent? That's a marketing issue to be answered. It's also product innovation. But they just for your background, they invented the pod because if you use too much detergent, your clothes aren't as clean. And the pod is pre-measured so that you use the right amount and your clothes look cleaner, right? Define what winning looks like. This is the first question that Terry and I do when we work with any new client. What does winning look like? So think about your business. Think about a year from now, November of 2025. You're going to give a bonus to all your team because what happened? What happened to your business that allows you to go, wow, we made our goals. We did this, but what is that goal? And then what are the real problems to be solved, right? If we were all working on Applebee's, the issue is the food. It's always been the food, right? It's not anything other than the food. So we have to solve the real problem, not, gee, we should discount more boneless wings. Okay, we can do that. We can temporarily bump business, but that's really not the issue. The issue is the food, right? What's your why? So I think about this in terms of this picture. If I'm walking down the street, if I'm driving down the street, why do I turn left into your business? Why do I turn right into your competitor's business? When I worked in the car category, I would ask car dealers, when you lose a sale, who do you lose it to? When you win a sale, who do you win it from? Think about that in your business. Who do you win from? Who do you lose to? What's your strategy in 5 words or less? Right? Think about that. Write that down. What's your strategy in 5 words or less for your business? With our boot camp company, our high performance marketing boot camp, we help CEOs and executive teams get to smarter, more effective marketing. That's more than 5 words, but that's what we do. I think it all starts with reason for being, right? Why are you in business? Why do you get up in the morning? What are you trying to do? What's your reason for being? I ran into this on vacation last year. I never knew that I needed a speedy burrito, so I didn't know what a speedy burrito was. If we all go back about 15 years, Jimmy John said we needed a fast sub. We didn't know we needed a fast sub. But the icon here, the graphic, obviously they're in the fast burrito business. There's a market for that, but they're certainly declaring the business they're in. I saw this in my neighborhood once on the side of a truck, 1 week bath. You can buy a bathroom remodel from a lot of different people, Home Depot, Lowe's, plumbers, carpenters, contractors. These people say we'll do it in 1 week. That sounds like a pretty good benefit when those of you that have done any sort of contractor remodel, they start the job, they don't leave, right? So this is a real value benefit. But they're not discounting. They're saying that this is our value proposition. Here's the enemy of strategy. We can do that. We can do this too. Terry and I just won a new client that is doing lots of things, and they're doing lots of things, if we want to be gracious, okay, but they're not doing lots of things great because they're doing lots of things, right? Obviously, it seems silly if you had the Hershey's chocolate company say, hey, we want to come up with soup, or the Kellogg's cereal company to say, hey, we're going to get into the furniture business. That would be obvious. It doesn't make sense. But so many times you're in meetings where people go, oh, we can do that too, thinking that we can grow our business by adding this, and this, right? The world isn't waiting around for the next diet cherry vanilla Coke. No one wants that. It's just wasting everyone's time and energy, and then it goes in and out of the grocery store and just annoys people. But here's the enemy of strategy. We can do that too. Sometimes it's the how instead of the what. Sometimes you win on the how, right? If you think about your competitive, certainly if you're a service business, I'll give you an example. When I was in Chicago, where I took my dry cleaner, this Korean lady who was half my size would not allow me to get out of my car. She would run out, she would grab my dry cleaning, she would take it in. Whenever I picked up my dry cleaning, she would take it out to my car. The 2 or 3 times when my wife would pick up the dry cleaning, she would say, is Mr. Patrick okay? Is Mr. Patrick okay? How's Mr. Patrick doing? That was her level of service, right? I don't get that level of service right now. I go to my local dry cleaners and I interrupt them, and I'm an annoyance. They're on their 5th person this month, and no level of service. I'm lucky when I get my dry clean. This picture is not really good, but if you saw this picture in a better light, the bananas on the right are green and the bananas on the left are ripe. How cool is that, right? They're selling bananas from the customer point of view, how you use them, as opposed to their point of view. So again, the how. The how could be the differentiator. We don't have time today, but if you haven't seen it yet, Simon Sinek has one of the best most viewed YouTube TED Talks. It's called The Golden Circle. If you're an entrepreneur and you haven't watched this TED Talk, you need to. It'll be probably the best 14 minutes of your life. His thesis is, which he wrote a book on, which is the TED Talk, is that your why is more important than your how or what. How and what's are commodities. The why is the differentiator. And he goes into that in great detail. So if you're unsure about what your why is, think about this. Think about the last election, and I think if you thought about the why behind both candidates, or both Team Blue, Team Red, that's another way to look at it. I love this tool. So quite often, Terry and I will use this tool with clients in the beginning. It's another way to get to your reason why. Make a list of why your employees love working for you. Top 10 reasons. Why customers love buying from you. Why your executive team loves working at your company. Why suppliers love working with you. And you'll see words repeated over and over again. We did this with a tire retailer in San Francisco, and the word performance kept coming up. And I said, why is performance? We used to be successful when all we did was focused on performance tires. We didn't do mufflers. We didn't do oil changes. All we did was performance tires. And if you had a Porsche or a Lamborghini or a high-end Audi or any type of car that needed high-performance tires, you only came to us. Dealers came to us because our tires were designed for high performance. And so they were successful because they were narrow. And when they broadened and they started adding a bunch of things, they became unsuccessful. So I didn't know what a speedy burrito was. If we all go back about 15 years, Jimmy John said we needed a fast sub. We didn't know we needed a fast sub. But the icon here, the graphic, obviously they're in the fast burrito business. There's a market for that, but they're certainly declaring the business they're in. I saw this in my neighborhood once on the side of a truck, 1 week bath. You can buy a bathroom remodel from a lot of different people, Home Depot, Lowe's, plumbers, carpenters, contractors. These people say we'll do it in 1 week. That sounds like a pretty good benefit when those of you that have done any sort of contractor remodel, they start the job, they don't leave, right? So this is a real value benefit. But they're not discounting. They're saying that this is our value proposition. Here's the enemy of strategy. We can do that. We can do this too. Terry and I just won a new client that is doing lots of things, and they're doing lots of things, if we want to be gracious, okay, but they're not doing lots of things great because they're doing lots of things, right? Obviously, it seems silly if you had the Hershey's chocolate company say, hey, we want to come up with soup, or the Kellogg's cereal company to say, hey, we're going to get into the furniture business. That would be obvious. It doesn't make sense. But so many times you're in meetings where people go, oh, we can do that too, thinking that we can grow our business by adding this, and this, right? The world isn't waiting around for the next diet cherry vanilla Coke. No one wants that. It's just wasting everyone's time and energy, and then it goes in and out of the grocery store and just annoys people. But here's the enemy of strategy. We can do that too. Sometimes it's the how instead of the what. Sometimes you win on the how, right? If you think about your competitor, certainly if you're a service business, I'll give you an example. When I was in Chicago, where I took my dry cleaner, this Korean lady who was half my size would not allow me to get out of my car. She would run out, she would grab my dry cleaning, she would take it in. Whenever I picked up my dry cleaning, she would take it out to my car. The 2 or 3 times when my wife would pick up the dry cleaning, she would say, is Mr. Patrick okay? Is Mr. Patrick okay? How's Mr. Patrick doing? That was her level of service, right? I don't get that level of service right now. I go to my local dry cleaners and I interrupt them, and I'm an annoyance. They're on their 5th person this month, and no level of service. I'm lucky when I get my dry clean. This picture is not really good, but if you saw this picture in a better light, the bananas on the right are green and the bananas on the left are ripe. How cool is that, right? They're selling bananas from the customer point of view, how you use them, as opposed to their point of view. So again, the how could be the differentiator. We don't have time today, but if you haven't seen it yet, Simon Sinek has one of the best, most viewed YouTube TED Talks. It's called The Golden Circle. If you're an entrepreneur and you haven't watched this TED Talk, you need to. It'll be probably the best 14 minutes of your life. His thesis is, which he wrote a book on, which is the TED Talk, is that your why is more important than your how or what. How and what's are commodities. The why is the differentiator. And he goes into that in great detail. So if you're unsure about what your why is, think about this. Think about the last election, and I think if you thought about the why behind both candidates, or both Team Blue, Team Red, that's another way to look at it. I love this tool. So quite often Terry and I will use this tool with clients in the beginning. It's another way to get to your reason why. Make a list of why your employees love working for you. Top 10 reasons. Why customers love buying from you. Why your executive team loves working at your company. Why suppliers love working with you. And you'll see words repeated over and over again. We did this with a tire retailer in San Francisco, and the word performance kept coming up. And I said, why is performance? We used to be successful when all we did was focused on performance tires. We didn't do mufflers. We didn't do oil changes. All we did was performance tires. And if you had a Porsche or a Lamborghini or a high-end Audi or any type of car that needed high-performance tires, you only came to us. Dealers came to us because our tires were designed for high performance. And so they were successful because they were narrow, and when they broadened and they started adding a bunch of things, they became unsuccessful. Who will you win with? So Peter Drucker, known as the father of business, he says the purpose of business is to create and keep a customer. I think this is as good a definition on marketing as there is. I want to create a customer. I want to keep a customer. Right? When I got to Beauty Brands, I didn't have a database, but I tried to figure out, are we bringing in more customers than we're losing? You want to know that too, right? There's some sort of a mathematical equation. Am I bringing in more? Am I keeping them? Am I growing the value of them? Is that better than what I'm losing? When I was starting my very first company, when I gained the courage to do it, I wrote these 3 circles in front of me, and I tried to figure out who my customer target would be. And in the very first circle on the left, I wrote in private equity. And the reason I wrote that was because when I worked at Westlake Ace Hardware, a private equity firm had bought Westlake from the Westlake family. And I learned how the private equity folks think. And they were finance people. And they believed in due diligence. They didn't know anything about marketing. And I knew that if I could talk to private equity that were buying and selling companies and they didn't know anything about marketing, I could be their due diligence person on the marketing side. I could help them evaluate marketing teams, marketing budgets, marketing strategies. Their goal is to buy and sell a company within 5 years. I could help them through marketing improve the multiple that they would sell the company on. So think about who your most valuable customer is before you get to your next customer. And there aren't, I think we saw something the other day, there were 10 customer groups. Just get it down to 2 or 3. Those are the ones that are going to drive all your profitability. Right? In fact, I was coaching a student team the other day. They were working on an entrepreneur in Kansas City is working on a hot sauce, and these students had all these customer segments listed. And I said, "Who's buying hot sauce 3 or 4 times a month and using it on everything?" That's your customer target. It's not someone who buys a bottle of hot sauce and it lasts a whole year, right? Who's carrying hot sauce in their purse right now and they're putting it on everything? That's your customer, right? That's very different than anyone else, right? You want heavy volume, heavy users. Larry Light used to be the chief marketing officer of McDonald's, and he started all his presentations with this slide. And he says, "Will they hold the plane for you?" Meaning there are customers that are so valuable to an airline, they will hold the plane for them, annoy 240 other people. They will hold the plane for some people because they're so valuable. So think about who's valuable to you as a customer. Again, when I got to Beauty Brands, we didn't have a database at all, but I said to each of our store managers, "Do you know who the 2 or 3 most profitable customers are?" And they said, "Yes, we do." And well, we were sponsoring Starlight at the time. I said, "I want to treat them as Starlight." And so we were able to take care of our best customers, even though we had yet to build a database. Boy, if you go on Shark Tank right now, they're going to ask you 3 questions because they ask everyone the same 3 questions. How are you going to grow customers? What's a customer worth? And then what are you spending to to get a customer. Terry and I worked on a premium dog food company several years ago, and the owner of the company said, I'm not going to spend more than $25 to get a customer. Well, we dug into the math. Every customer was worth $2,000 a year. And the customer over the lifetime with his product was worth about $6,000 to $10,000. I think all of you would spend more than $25. We worked with a real estate company that one of the sales agents said to a vet, I'm not going to give you a discount on the application fee like the competitor across the street. We don't do that. And I said to that young lady, so you just said no to discounting $35 off a $12,000 lease. That's your strategy. And she didn't understand what I was saying because she was afraid of the accounting department. And when I talked to the CEO, he was surprised, right? So think about where the center of gravity is with your company. It should be obviously with the customer, but you want to understand what your customer's worth so that then you can do enough spending so that when you get a customer, you're very comfortable spending a little bit more to get a customer. Here's the secret of marketing. So if you take your customers and you put them in this 4-box, and on the bottom going left to right, people are using you more. And bottom going up, people love you more. So in your top right quadrant, you have people that love you a lot and use you a lot. These are people that are your enthusiasts. These are people that love fast food, love Taco Bell, and they come to your Taco Bell 30 plus times a month, right? So these are the enthusiasts. They love you, they use you. The top left column are people that say they love you, but they're not coming as often, right? Again, I'm looking out into a dark room. I think there's a lot of women in here. If I asked you, what do you think about Ann Taylor? Quite often the response is, I love Ann Taylor. When's the last time you were in Ann Taylor? Oh, 5 years ago, but I love Ann Taylor, right? So those are the wannabes. You have great affinity for your brand, but they're not using you as much. The bottom left quadrant is the big sucker bet, right? They probably don't use the category. They certainly don't use you. And everyone who's not a marketing person wants to throw money at this group, right? It's a big waste of time. My mom has never been into a Taco Bell, ever. She doesn't like Mexican food. What's the likelihood Pepsi is going to, Yum Brands is going to get my mom to go to Taco? Like zero, right? Zero. So you want to avoid that. And hostages is kind of an interesting conundrum. They use you a lot and they hate you. So think about your car payment, maybe your cable payment or your phone bill, but you're a heavy user, but the affinity isn't there. So if we kind of organize this by size, you can see the Pareto principle is really in play. This group of enthusiasts is going to drive all your profitability, so you want to know who they are. The wannabes have enormous upside potential, right? If you can even just convert 1 or 2% of the wannabes to get them to enthusiasts, that's magical. This big box of rejectors is so tempting. I had the CFO of Westlake come to me every week, Dave, why aren't we going after the Home Depot customer? Because they don't want to come to us. That's why. Let's not waste our money against them, right? Let's put it on the people that really want to come to us. So here's the secret of marketing, the secret of your strategy, your business strategy. How do I get wannabes to becoming enthusiasts? Well, the first thing is you need to understand who both are. At Toys R Us, the enthusiasts were toy collectors. They came to us because Toys R Us had the collectible that they wanted. The WWF figurine, the Star Wars character, whatever, they had it. The toy collector could care less about the cost. At beauty brands, the enthusiast was people that use us for products and services, both products and services. The wannabes only used us for products. They would come in when the product was on sale. They didn't use us for services. Again, the marketing plan writes itself. At Toys R Us, the wannabes were people that were more cost conscious. They'd buy the Game Boy from Target if it was $5 less. So once you understand that, then all of a sudden, now you can shift your marketing strategy. Those of you that have been watching the news lately, McDonald's has brought back the McRib, right? You probably didn't know McRib was gone. McRib is back, right? Well, the fun thing about the McRib sandwich is McDonald's has learned that that sandwich can't be put on the regular menu for a long period of time. It just won't hold its place in the batting order. So they take it away, and like every 3 years they bring it back. And the people that love McDonald's, the enthusiasts, when you say McRib is back, that generates incremental traffic. They don't have to discount the sandwich. It drives visit frequency. And people that are the occasional users also respond to McRib. So you'll usually see McRib for about 6 to 8 weeks, drives a ton of traffic, drives a lot of profitability, full margin, no discounting. How smart is that? It's really smart, but then they pull it away, bring it back another 3 years. If you understand this, if you understand who your enthusiasts are and your wannabes and why they buy from you, you will understand your reason for being, your customer's reason for need, your value proposition, your brand promise, and your customer target. You'll have clarity in all that, and you'll be able to spend a smart dollar, right? You're always challenged with, I have $1 to spend. Do I spend it on getting a new customer? Do I spend it on growing an existing customer? It's a false choice because you have to do both. But one of the things I did at Westlake was I knew that I had people coming into the store. When I first got to Westlake, the average check was around $10.50. By the time I left, I had the average check around $50. I made the store more interesting. I made the store more exciting. I put a lot of adjacencies together. A simple thing I did was on the register, I asked the head of merchandise, what's the #1 selling item this month? Let's put it on the register. Let's just put it right on the register. And so that generated incremental sales, right? It's the Walmart Pop-Tart thing, just in a different way. But if you understand how to spend your dollar in a smart way, then all of a sudden you can leverage it more effectively. It sounds like the strategy thing is complicated. There's really only 2 strategies. I've got 2 fishing ponds. One fishing pond is full of my existing customers. How do I get more value out of that fishing pond? And the other is a fishing pond that I have to create. I have to create from scratch. What do I have to do to kind of fill that fishing pond? And so you're always left with these choices, but again, you have to do both. So I'll give you another example. So you all learned back in high school, you heard the term loss leader. Grocery stores sell milk as a loss leader. They put it in the back of the store, make you walk through the whole store, sell milk at a loss leader, hope you buy everything else. Okay, we all heard that. But milk is a commodity, and grocery stores don't make any money on milk. Why would you discount the milk that you're not already making money off of? It's silly, right? Here's a smarter high-performance marketing solution. I look at my correlation in my data between chocolate chip cookies and milk. And there's a 65% correlation between people who buy chocolate chip cookies and they also buy the milk. My margins on chocolate chip cookies are 60, 65, 80%. I discount the chocolate chip cookies, I get the milk sale at full price, and people are shopping 2 different parts of the store, right? It's the difference why 7-Eleven is failing and why Quick Trip is succeeding. If you go into 7-Eleven right now, they make it easy for you to get one thing and leave. I can get my Slurpee and leave. I can get my lottery ticket and leave. I can get the Funyuns and leave, right? 7-Eleven makes it really easy. Where Quick Trip right now, right, they put a food court right in the middle of the store, and you next time you go to Quick Trip, try not to shop the whole store, right? They make it incredibly difficult for you to not shop the store. And oh, by the way, that food court is enormously successful. How amazing is that, right? We talked about Walmart. You don't have Budweiser dollars, especially as an entrepreneur. You have very limited dollars. Every dollar is a very painful dollar, right? So you want to spend a smart dollar, and I would think in terms of concentric circles. What am I doing most immediately with my best customers, and how do I branch out from that? What's your plan? This is where we start. With any client we do a whiteboard strategy session, and the first question is, what does winning look like? How do you define success? We had a website potential client a few years ago, and this gentleman owned multiple apartment buildings. And we just naturally said, you want a website for your tenants? He said, absolutely not. He goes, I need $50 million in capitalization. I want a website that's going to get me $50 million of investment capital because I want to go out and build more apartment buildings. So they go, oh, okay. So had we not asked that, I mean, we would have gotten to it. But he was very clear on what his goal was. So if you know what success looks like, then all of a sudden the marketing strategy will flow from that. Who will we win with, right? Really defining who are those customer targets that are going to drive profitability, drive volume. Sometimes they're internal. We haven't worked on a client in the last 5 years that hasn't said, I don't have enough staff. Part of my marketing budget has to recruit more staff because I'm limited to how I can grow unless I'm bringing in more staff. So who are we going to win with? And then how will we win, right? That actually is the activation plan. About 15 years ago, I started a marketing incubator, accelerator, where we helped entrepreneurs in 3 months accelerate the growth of their company. And they would pay us a fee, an even fee per month, and we would help them with their business strategy. We would help them with their marketing strategy. We would give them kind of a basic branding and marketing website. There wasn't one of those 15 companies we worked on over 3 years that didn't need to fix their strategy first before they could get ready to grow. So one of my challenges to you today is to really look at your business strategy. And if you think about this chart that you're looking at right now in terms of Shark Tank, none of the investments you see on Shark Tank happen until they're in the growth stage. They will kind of bet behind a winner. They won't put money up in kind of the fix and the build. And quite a few entrepreneurs go through this figure eight for a couple years where they're figuring out the operations. They're figuring out. I mean, think about it this way: if you owned a restaurant and you wanted to get to 50 units, going from 1 to 2 is easy because everyone works harder. Going from 2 to 3 is really hard because people can't work any harder. Going from 3 to 5 is almost impossible because now you have to come with systems and processes, and everyone's going to be doing it the same way, and you have to build your business to scale, right? And so that's what's happening in this chart here. So if you're thinking about what am I going to do in the next 3 to 5 years, you don't want to overspend on marketing until you're ready to spend on marketing because your business is ready. You want your marketing to create demand, right? That's what you want your marketing to do. It needs to create demand. It shouldn't be doing really anything other than creating demand. I use this principle of Stephen Covey's in primarily my international marketing classes, but it applies to other ones. Target went into Canada and failed. How in the world could Target, with all their smart people, go into another country where almost everyone has been to a Target? The whole population lives within 90 miles of the border. They know what Target is. Target not only closed 145 stores, laid off 30,000 people, they went into Canada because they didn't seek first to understand. So think about how hard you're working to have your customers tell you what they need and work back your marketing from what they're telling you. 17,000 employees, 133 stores. I love this chart. I'll explain it to you, but it basically says you're going to be more competitive, you're going to be more successful if you're listening to your customers and they're teaching you how to improve your product, how to improve your service, how to improve how you go to market, and you're listening to them and you keep making changes based on what they're telling you, and now your products and your services are going to be more competitive, and you're going to have more stickiness with your customers because you're listening to them and they're telling you what they need. Too many people are using social media right now to talk as opposed to listen, and social media is an incredible medium for listening. Seth Godin has written a lot on marketing, and he says it all boils down to awareness and trust. Think about that, right? People go on Shark Tank. How are you going to get found? That's one of the questions. But then trust. Are you creating trust? In my early days of my ad career, I was working on Burger King, and we had poorly run restaurants, and through the chimney, you can go through the side, you can go in the back. But is your mind always thinking in terms of angling the angles? I ran the McDonald's business in Denmark, and in Denmark they say tak. So I'm saying to you, tak, thank you. It was nice to be here. We'll take any questions now. And then just before I leave you, Terry and I do a lot of workshops with companies, and if some of you would like to have a hands-on workshop with you or your team, these are just some of the workshops that we do. And you can get a hold of me this way. Thanks. Any questions? Yep. Yeah.
There is a certain level of awareness
Yeah.
created even with bad shock value advertising. There's got to be a little line there. How do you turn it?
So that's a fascinating. It's a true statement. It's a fascinating question. I think Donald Trump has believed for the last 40 years there's no such thing as bad PR. I think he's the only one in the world that believes that, but he believes that within all sincerity. If the New York Times writes a bad article about him, he's like happy because he's in the news. And he believes that. I don't believe that. I think, if Mattel and Barbie just had a conundrum and McDonald's and Quarter Pounder with Cheese just had a conundrum, there's negativity, and you don't want negativity associated with your brand or your business. And then there's positivity, so I think I'm a belief that not only do you want positive conversations about your business, you want the right conversations, right? If you're Speedy Burrito, you don't want someone talking about your burrito as how careful they make it after they pick the avocados for 3 days, right? They're in the Speedy Burrito business. So you want the language. Here's something you can do, whether it's your brand or your competitor's brand. Look at your comments in Facebook and your Google reviews. Look at the verbs people use when they describe your brand. Terry and I have a client in the middle of Kansas, and you get on their Google reviews, cute, 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 cute. Cute people, cute merchandise, cute packaging, cute store. They asked us to build a website for them. we knew it had to be cute, right? Because that's their brand. It was cute. So, good question. Another question? Yep. I think there's two fault lines to answer your question. So one is, are you selling B2B or are you selling B2C?
Well, it's B2B, so it would be software, and I understand that.
You're selling it to government, B to government?
Selling to government.
Okay,
So basically, because of the procurement process,
yeah,
you can't really, kind of trigger them to buy right there.
yeah.
So it would be more for me to build awareness for your solution and to build credibility.
Yeah, and I think you need to understand why they make the decision that they make. Like, for example, it could be on risk aversion, right? So you're going to be the concrete provider for the road. We don't want to make this mistake and go with your company if this stuff's going to buckle and fall apart after 6 months because you didn't mix it right? So I think you obviously trust, but with any procurement thing, there's the stated decision reasons, but then there's hidden ones, and I think you have to understand both. You want the thing that you don't want to do is be the decision be made on commodity pricing, because you can never win at that. And if you win at that, you end up losing at it, because yeah, you won the contract, but you can't make money on it, right? Another question? Well, thanks for coming. Reach out to us. Feel free to link in.